Good evening, everyone. My name is Raven, and tonight I'll be sharing with you my story on how God healed and revealed himself to me. For about 4 years, I was dealing with chronic pain. I went to about 5 different doctors, and God led me to a neurologist. I told him that I could be walking, sitting, standing, and I would feel an involuntary pain that would shoot through my buttocks, and it would start in my pelvis. The first thing he said was, "Why are you here? I don't deal with that type of pain." I said, "Sir, I'm not trying to waste your time. I just want to know what's wrong with me." He ordered a specific test, and a week later, he died. On October 29th, 2013, I was diagnosed with cancer. It was an orthopedic surgeon. He sat my family and I down. He said, "Raven, you have a very rare cancer. The name of it is synovial sarcoma. 1 of 3 million people have this type of cancer. Yours is so rare because it's in a rare spot. It's in your pelvis, and it's starting to protrude in your buttocks. It's 12 centimeters long, and to give you a visual, that's about a half loaf of bread." I was more relieved than anything because now I knew what was wrong with me. I was reflected back to when my mom taught me about faith and a mustard seed. She said, "Raven, do you know what a mustard seed is?" I said, "No, ma'am." She said, "Well, you go get you a piece of paper and a pen. You make a dot. At that moment, I knew I had that. I knew that I did not have to ask the Lord to increase my faith. All I had to do was plant that seed. I realized that a mustard seed is the smallest seed in the garden, but it's the biggest plant in the garden. The orthopedic surgeon said, "Raven, it's 7 other specialists that are working with your case, and we have a plan for you. The first step would be to have chemotherapy, radiation, and then surgery." My first question was, "What if I don't want to do the chemo?" He said, "Well, what will happen is, because of the size of your tumor, it's starting to shift everything to the left. And what will happen is your lungs, they will collapse, you will suffocate, and you will die." It says in Exodus 9:17 that, "For I have raised you up for this very purpose, that you may see my power and glorify my name." You all, I did not have insurance. I had just got a new job, and my insurance had not kicked in just yet. They scheduled me to get a port put in on December the 2nd. A week before that, I received a letter in the mail that said, "Your insurance will be effective December the 1st, 2013. At that moment, I knew God showed up right then and right there. He said, "Raven, I'm sorry." I said, "Well, how soon would you all start this process?" He said, "Immediately." On December the 2nd, I got my port put in, and on the 9th, I started my chemo. He let me know that I was going to have some of the strongest chemo. The name of it was doxorubicin, also known as Red Devil. I would have to be admitted into the hospital for 5 days. I would have to have 22 hours of chemo around the clock for 3 days. And on the 4th day, I would have a 10-hour mesna, which flushes out my kidneys. On the 5th day, I was able to go home. I went home for 2 weeks, and I had to come back and I do it all over again. My last chemo treatment was the end of February. I then had to go and speak with the radiologist to discuss my plan for radiation. He told me that I would have 6 weeks of radiation, Monday through Friday, for 15 minutes every day. My last radiation treatment was in April. In Romans 12:12 it says, "Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer." I knew that it may be sorrow at night, but I knew that joy comes in the morning. I knew that even though affliction was upon me, I still had to thank God for his strength that he was giving me every day. I still had an appetite, and I kept a prayer in my mouth. Time was approaching for me to have my surgery. I had another MRI and a CT. And the mass, it was shrinking, but it was not shrinking enough. I spoke with my surgeon. He said, "Raven, there's some things that we need to talk about before your surgery. The first thing is you're going to have a full hysterectomy. You will not be able to have kids." And I accepted that. The second thing was I had to speak with a gastroenterologist, which is a stomach doctor. I had to have a colonoscopy. And I met with him, and my mass was pushing on my rectum. He said, "Well, when we have the surgery, we're going to have to take your rectum out, so you're going to have to get fitted for a coloscopy bag." Third thing was, it was 50% chance that I was going to lose my right leg because the nerves, they were intertwined in that mass, and they didn't know how they were going to be able to take that mass out. June 23rd, I had my surgery. It was 9.5 hours long. Before that surgery, we all prayed. And not only was I praying for myself and my family, I was very specific in my prayer. I started to pray for the nurses, the techs, the doctors, the medicine, the instruments. I also prayed for their families because you may not be going through what I'm going through, but we all go through something. And I knew that their families are also going through things also. So they need prayer. We all need prayer. Before my surgery, my mom, she said, "Raven, you come back to me." I said, "Mom, I am." And my dad, he was in the other ear. He said, "Raven, baby, promise me you're going to fight." I promise, Daddy, I'm going to fight. They wheeled me away, and I said, "Bye. I'll see y'all on Wednesday." I said Wednesday because they told me that I was not going to come to until a couple of days later. When I woke up with a tube in my mouth. I was intubated. I was so happy to be here. I was trying to talk. They didn't understand what I was saying. So I told my mom to come here. And I wrote G-O-D in the palm of her hand. I told my dad to come here. And I wrote in his hand, H-O-T. I was hot. And the other thing I wrote in his hand was P-A-I-N. I was in a lot of pain. And I remember the nurse saying, baby, we're going to make sure you're comfortable. After they took that tube out of my mouth, the doctor, he came and said that the surgery went well. You saw me walk up here, so they didn't have to take my leg. They also said that we did not have to take your rectum out. You don't have a coloscopy bag. When they took that tumor out, it was the size of 2 fists put together. And it came out, it was in a bubble. He said that it came out as if it was going through a vacuum. He said that, Raven, all your margins are negative. You're cancer-free. You all, when the Lord calls us to do something that's going to glorify Him, we must first embrace whatever it is. We must show humility when we go to Him. We must be humbled. And most importantly, we must believe that He will do exactly what He said He's going to do. I'm going to say one more thing and I'm going to have a seat. My grandmother, she hurt my feelings. She said, Raven, I didn't think you was going to make it. I said, Granny, you wrote me off. She said, baby, you had so much against you. And my faith, it did waver. And I said, Granny, a praying woman like yourself? She said, I'm honest, it did waver. She said, but you know what's most important? And I said, what's that? She said that yours didn't waver. So, whatever you're going through, you just hold on to that faith and you give it all to God. Because I know if He'll do it for me, He'll do it for each one of us. Thank you.